Welcome back to another edition of the Rural Report. I am your Rural 2IC, and we are going to continue our mini series on tools for SHTF. Now, we've already done a couple of these so far. The feedback's been absolutely amazing. You guys seem to really like it. We've been getting good comments, good emails, really good back and forth. A lot of people that have thrown in some really amazing, great ideas. And that's what I wanted. I'm not here to tell you you have to have everything on this list. Or no, that's not the point of these videos or my channel. I want to give you the idea. I want to pitch a few things, get the ball rolling, and then you figure out what's going to fit your needs, because what I'm going to get is going to be different than what you're going to get. So I'm just going to throw these out there just like all the other videos, which if you haven't seen them, at the very end, you'll see a little card right over here. And all you got to do is click on that and you can watch the whole series in your leisure time. But with this one is going to be automotive tools for SHTF. Now, to get into this one, we've already went through and talked about general tools, things like screwdrivers, wrenches, ratchets and socket sets and things like that. So you probably, if you've started into this, you've got those tools. That's a really good start, okay? Now, disclaimer on this was kind of a hard list to go through and make, okay? And the reason is because when we're talking automotive, it's going to depend on, one, how well do you know automotive, and two, how mechanically inclined you are. If you've never done anything automotive, then you're going to get the one person that's going to go down in the comment sections before they watch this whole thing, and they're like, you forgot the double bubble flare metric tool that... If you have no idea what I just said, then you're probably not doing brake line repair anyway. And if you know what a double bubble flare tool is, you probably already have it, okay? So just FYI on that. To go through and do all this, if you are mechanically inclined, if you know a little bit of automotive stuff, these are going to be some of your basic things that you may want to consider. Again, it's not a complete list. It's up to you. So take it for what you will. Now, the first thing on my list is going to be things like wire strippers and crimpers. Okay. Now you can get a 2-in-1 tool that they strip and crimp all in the same tool, or you can buy them separate. And also, if you're going to be doing electrical like that, you're going to probably need things like butt connectors, terminal ends, electrical tape. If you're doing electrical, you're stripping wires and all that. You got crimpers, you got to crimp on the ends. So make sure you have those types of things. Also in there, I'm going to add a little bit of dielectric grease. That goes a long way. A lot of people overlook that. You start getting a little funky connection. Sometimes dielectric grease can come to the rescue. Even if it only works for a time or two, that time or two could really be useful. So make sure that you watch things like that. Don't forget about the small stuff, okay? So things like fuses, relays, hose clamps, things like that. Nuts, bolts, hardware. You would be surprised. Now, for me, I've been on job sites where I've seen $1 million piece of equipment on a multi-million-dollar job site, and the entire thing is pretty much shut down because of a $1 O-ring failed. Okay, trust me, it's bad news. Make sure you have things like O-rings and mechanics wire, and the little tiny, I won't say tiny, but the different worm gear clamps and other things along those lines. The little things is what's going to be the most hardening, especially if you're into automotive, where all you need is that little tiny whatever, and you can make the whole thing work. Okay, so when you're out and about, when you see something along those lines, pick it up. I've been to countless yard sales where they have a pack of fuses, and they're like, "Hey, man, buy this for $1. I'll throw that in for free." Hey, done deal. Okay, they don't go bad. Just throw them in somewhere, store them. They're there if you need them. So just wanted to throw that out there. Next is going to be a jack. Chances are most of us have experienced a flat tire. Sometimes it's not even about a tire. It's just about being able to get up underneath. Some of us, if it's a smaller car, just to change the oil, you need to jack it up a little bit. I would tend to go with the old school scissor jack. just my opinion. Uh, yes, I understand having a low pro aluminum 2.5 ton would be absolutely great, but I'm not lugging that thing around, you know. So if there's a vehicle 3 miles down the road and all I need to do is put a tire on it, I can carry that scissor jack a heck of a lot better. Now that also goes into you should probably have a 4-way, which is the cross thing. If you don't know what I'm talking about, that does multiple sizes of lug nuts. Now keep in mind, especially with a lot of American and foreign made cars, you have SAE and standard lug nuts. So most of your 4-ways come 2 and 2, so they fit most. So keep that in mind. Now, next thing that we're going to cover is going to be a way to compress air. Okay. This one's going to be a little tough. You're probably not going to walk up to a 1 ton truck and take a bicycle pump and pump it up. Keep in mind, though, we're talking SHTF, so you don't have to pump it all the way up to 44 psi. You need it enough to roll. Okay, that's going to be your big thing. You need it to roll. If it's 10 pounds under, who cares? It needs to roll. We'll figure it out later. Uh, but you're going to have to get creative on that. The big thing is going to be one of those 12-volt air compressors. If you've got a vehicle that runs, but it's got a flat tire, if it's running, plug that little 12-volt in there, let it do its job. Pump that thing up enough that you can get it rolling. Okay. It's one of the things I think is going to be often overlooked. Next is going to be the old school, old fashioned jumper cables. Make sure that you have a set of jumper cables. That's one of those things. You should have it now. That should be part of your emergency kit. So I just wanted to throw that in there. Make sure you have it. Next, I think it's going to be overlooked. It's going to be things like penetrants. Don't do the aerosols. In my opinion, over time, the aerosol is just going to leak out and you're going to be stuck with a can full of penetrant that you can't get in unless you start stabbing at it and maybe injured and all the other stuff. They sell it to where you can buy it small or in bulk. You can get it in gallon, 5 gallon, things like that. Pour it into just a standard spray bottle, and that's going to help you get those pesky nuts and bolts loose. That's probably going to be super rusted in the first place. So, if you plan on doing anything along those lines, it might be really well for you to have some sort of penetrant. Next, I would suggest a test light. Now, granted, you can redneck, re-engineer, and make your own test light. Absolutely. But they're pretty cheap to just go buy one. I would recommend LED just so you don't have to deal with glass bulbs and all the other stuff. Plus, the LED is probably going to last a heck of a lot longer. But again, my 2 cents. Next on the list is going to be a spark plug socket set. I see a lot of the routine maintenance things when you are dealing with SHTF. So you're going to want to keep up on your spark plugs and the ability to change the spark plugs, because a spark plug socket set, if you don't know what that is, that's a deeper socket that has a little ring or shoulder inside that when you take it out, it actually holds the spark plug so you can pull it out. It helps that you can put the spark plug in and go down and it seats better. But they go for all the spark plugs for the most part. So they will work on small engine, boat, vehicle, whatever. So to have a set is going to be a pretty good idea. Next would be to have extra things. So they sell bulk wire. So I'm talking mechanics wire and also electrical wire. Might even be a good idea to get bulk spark plug wire, as well as hoses. Now, you technically, there's a lot of hoses you don't need, but they make hoses. Now, I know most of the really important hoses, like your radiator hoses, are completely custom, blown mold and all that, to where there's certain everything right down to the millimeter of where they need to be. They make aftermarket ones that are flexible. They're not as good. I get it, but we're talking survival SHTF. So, if we're just running coolant through it and you've got to use garden hose or whatever, uh, do what you got to do. Okay. Next would be to have extra fluids. And I'm talking about the fluids that you need. I'm not talking about windshield wiper fluid and all that other stuff. You need things like transmission, oil, stuff like that. And I'll get into some of the other stuff later. I know somebody will probably be like, oh, you need 85 140, you need gear oil, you need this. Unless you own a 4x4, I wouldn't worry about it. And I'll tell you why. I'll get to that here in a minute. But I would keep your engine oil, transmission and fluid, things like that, and maybe a little bit of uh, full strength, not concentrate coolant, but 2 cents. And then the last thing is going to be a cheap OBD2 scanner. Now, if you went rural, why are you talking Star Wars talk? I'm not. An OBD2 scanner is a little thing like when you go to a part store, whatever they are, auto zones and different things, and they put that little thing in your car and they press the buttons and the little screen. That runs a very what do you want to say, low end diagnostics on your car. Most of us is probably not running a laptop with some sort of snap on or whatever. So having a cheap one is going to be the thing. You don't need batteries because it's going to be powered off the car. So if you are able to, even if the car won't start, if you are able to get it to have some sort of power, you plug that in, it'll throw you a code. You'll be able to at least get some sort of an idea. It may not be the actual problem, but it'll get you hopefully headed in the right direction. Um, they make a whole bunch of them. You just have to kind of do a little bit of digging to find out which one's going to be best for your financial needs. Now, I'm going to also put this out here. Take this for what this is, okay? So if we are talking end of the world, we're talking society has fallen, we're talking real life, actual survival situation and all that. Okay. On this channel, we're never going to say do anything theft, illegal, anything along those lines. So we're saying hypothetically, it's Walking Dead survival thing. If you are going to go scavenge a car, then make sure that you find something older. Okay. Most of these new ones, they have so many modules and security features and all sorts of these sensors and everything. All it is more things that can go wrong or more things that need to be repaired in order for the vehicle to do something. Okay. So try and find those older vehicles if it is possible. Now, to go off on that, you're going to have to make sure that when you find a vehicle, if you can do whatever you can to get it to where it is functional, because when we're talking SHTF, you need three things. You need it to start up, you need it to get from A to B, then you need to get it to stop when you get to B. Okay, those are your three things. You don't need windshield wipers, you don't need a seat belt, you don't even need the trunk to close. There's a ton of things you don't need. Okay, I don't need the turn signal to work, the brake lights to work, I don't need the radio or the air condition, I don't even need power, whatever. You need it to start, move, stop. That's it. Okay, forget all the other stuff. It's why we kind of want to go on the older cars if possible. So when we're getting into that, if you find a vehicle, okay, and you look at it and you kind of go through it and you go, you know what, I can't fix it. I don't have the part needed or I can't figure it out or whatever. Be creative. You can still do something with that vehicle, okay? If you can use it as storage, okay, maybe it's a really big SUV or whatever. If you can pop the trunk, you've got storage right there. Use it to your advantage. Uh, you can use it to fortify a wall. Maybe you're building, something and you can push it up against there and there you go. Now you've fortified. I've seen people make the suggestion of using it as a redneck hunting blind. Okay. Uh, I've seen all sorts of different suggestions to where people have done, even in Hollywood, they've made, the horse drawn wagons and stuff out of them. It's all going to be creative on how you do. You can use it to block roadways or driveways. There's a ton of things. Not only if you have all of these tools that we were just talking about, they're parts now. Take what you can off and put it back. And so that way, maybe the next vehicle that you come across will need that item that you were able to scavenge and take off this vehicle. So I will get into one last final thing, and this will be the one that will be controversial. I have been into the automotive, small engine, parts world, heavy duty, off road, heavy machine, all that. Okay. I've been dealing with that entire world for the last like 20 years. Take what I'm about to say with a grain of salt. If you own a four-wheel drive, then it's yours and you do what you want with it. Okay. Personally, I will skip by four-wheel drives if I'm out and about scavenging. There's a ton of things that go wrong with four-wheel drives, suspension wise, four-wheel drive. There's a lot more moving parts and a lot more other things. Personally, I would rather pop into an old school Cavalier, Honda Civic, something small, little two-wheel drive, whatever. That's probably what I would go after personally. When you start getting into the ones, so you see some real big Expedition or Escalade or something along those lines, they're huge. So your imprint is now real big. They're usually some sort of a fuel hog, so you're going to that precious fuel that you have, you're going to get 9 miles to the gallon instead of 30 miles to the gallon. Uh, but again, it's all on your opinion and what you're willing to do and things like that. Um, and then also for me, uh, I would tend to look more for diesel. You have more availability when it comes to diesel than you do with gasoline. But again, sometimes you may not have the option. Depending on where you live, there may be more gas than diesel. Vice versa, there may be more four-wheel drives and smaller vehicles. Maybe you live in an area to where you have to have four-wheel drive. I get it. So it's all going to vary by person to person and situation to situation. This is just to get your mind rolling. A lot of this is things that I would do. Okay. So if you think I forgot some tools, let me know down in the comment section. If you want to see something else, is there more tool things that we need for SHTF situations? Throw it down in the comments. Shoot me an email. We can have discussions. That's what this whole thing's about. I just want to get the ball rolling. This is by no means a complete list. Okay. I'm trying to stress that enough on that. But that's what I've got for you. I know this is a longer video and I apologize, but this is kind of my area, if you will. But with that, I hope you guys have a super amazing, blessed day. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of your time with me. I will say that you should stay tuned because there's definitely more information to come. And with that, I'll say please remember to remain united because we're all prepping in this together.